back on the Young Turks coverage of the Army's 250th birthday, Donald Trump's 79th birthday. You know what? He's actually been around for a good chunk of the country. Good for him for that. And our presidents do keep getting older and older. So maybe we'll bring George Washington back one of these days. I mean, the way we're going. Look. When you were a kid, you wanted to have a birthday party that was spectacular, maybe some GI Joes, some tanks, some planes. Well, Donald Trump is just taking that to a different level, okay? And of course, with your money. Don't get it wrong. So now, Cenk, Uygur,
you should have spray painted all the tanks gold for the parade.
Don't give him any ideas, because next year is America's 250th birthday. So he might bring out the golden tanks to match the golden dome and the golden card and the golden dome that he has on top of his head. Anyway,
what about the golden calf.
Yes, that mainly the golden calf, which is actually what's driving all of this, as we've been talking about all day long. So that's a great point, Ben. And obviously joining us, the indomitable Senator Nina Turner. That is the usual reaction she gets.
It's so great to be with both you. I call Ben affectionately Cenk BC, but it's good to be with both of you and the TYT fam.
Yes, wonderful to have you. So, Nina, we've been showing the parade, explaining that it's got the range from the Revolutionary War parade, at least people dressed up as that, and dressed up as World War I, Vietnam, Korean War. Back in New Jersey, we actually, my family lived near the.
First Sergeant Norton, reporting for duty, sir. Ready to commence the ceremony as directed.
I state your name.
I
do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and that I will obey the orders of the President of the United States and the orders of the officers appointed over me according to regulations and the Uniform Code of Military Justice. So help me God. Congratulations, congratulations. Welcome to the United States Army, and have a great life. Thank you very much. Have a great life. Thank you.
Yeah. So that was Trump swearing in some of the, obviously the very new troops and the soldiers in the US Army. This is not just the military's, obviously the Army started the military, but it is specifically the Army's 250th birthday. It started as the Continental Army in 1775, and that's why we're celebrating it today. We would normally be celebrating it anyway, but we would not normally have a military parade like this, which again, to me, harkens back to not great memories of your past and some other countries that are more militaristic in nature. I'm proud that we have a strong military, but I'm not proud of the amount of money that we spend on it, and I certainly don't think the military should be in the streets of the United States. And by the way, guys, as I'm going to go to Nina here in a second. I did a tweet about this, a little bit tongue in cheek about, hey, if you're right wing, you're not going to want to watch our coverage because we're going to tell you how much all this stuff costs and what a waste it is, et cetera. But these days, as Ben talked about earlier in the broadcast, a lot of the right wing agrees with us, and they don't want the waste, fraud, and abuse, and they don't want the extra wars, et cetera. But as we look at all that, and I see him swearing in those troops. I put out that tweet, and one of the guys on X was like, "Oh yeah, Grok, isn't it true that actually Biden was planning this in 2023, and this is not really Trump?" Now that actually winds up being true a lot of times. Joe Biden was actually planning the base in Guantanamo, where they're now keeping some, or planning to keep some detainees that are undocumented, etc. But in this case, it was kind of hilarious because Grok was like, "Nope, not true." They were planning to have a normal celebration of the 250th birthday of the Army, but there was no military parade planned at all until January 29th of 2025, when Donald Trump ordered that military parade. So this money being wasted today is thanks to Donald Trump. And so, and by the way, I've been promising you that number, so let me just tell you now. This is costing us about $45 million, the US taxpayers, just to put on this parade. Some of that is the cost of redoing some of the streets in Washington, D.C., because the tanks are gonna rip up the streets, and then we're gonna have to fix that. But don't worry, I'm sure there'll be a private contractor that fixes that and gets rich off of that as well, right? And a lot more local police, the military showing up, et cetera, and the costs associated with that. But Nina, I want to turn to domestic politics here in this same context. We've got the No Kings protests happening across the country. We have, unfortunately, not only National Guard, but the Marines, not as a part of a parade, but for real in the streets of Los Angeles, being used against American citizens. I guess my reaction to it, Nina, is, boy, that was quick. He didn't wait this time around for 3-4 years before threatening to bring out the troops in the streets and bringing them out. He went for it right away in the first couple of months here. So what's your take on all of that?
I mean, weaponizing the military against civilians, I mean, it really is a betrayal. President Donald J. Trump is betraying everything that he ran on. And he is stoking the flames here. It's like he's pouring gasoline on a fire. And people, the citizens of this country, in terms of the No Kings Day, it's really good to see people united and come out and push and let this president know that they are not pleased. Ultimately, beyond this, though, we need a full-fledged campaign. That's why I'm so proud that Ben Cohen has launched Up in Arms to continue to remind us, to motivate us to understand that for every dollar that is spent in this way, so what is it, about $134 million or so, when all is said and done between the National Guard and the Marines, for something that is happening in Los Angeles that the local officials and also the governor of that state, put aside your political affiliation, it is a waste of money. The way to show that we love our veterans is to make sure that the unhoused veterans are housed, to make sure that we support veterans when they come back, whether it's post stress traumatic disorder, whatever they may have, the needs of them and their families. It is not to deploy troops on American soil. That's one. And two, for this parade, which is ridiculous. And you know what, Cenk? Even if we found out that President Biden was going to have more than just a celebration of the 250-year history of the Army, let's say, for example, he was planning a parade, we would be saying the same thing, because we have a commitment to the principles and not to who the politicians are. And it is wrong to spend American tax dollars in this way. And it is wrong to sick military personnel on civilians.
Yeah. So now we mentioned what we could be spending the money on instead. So as you said, the $134 million number in LA, I was like, man, we would love that for fire prevention. That would be a much, much, much better way to spend it in LA. But I'm gonna bring up some of these numbers here. We're gonna look at Trump's budget request to give you a sense of context for how much do we spend on defense versus the other parts of the budget? Because they keep talking about cutting waste from Medicaid and food stamps and now Medicare and closing down Social Security offices. Well, but we asked them to cut spending on defense. They said they would, and then of course they didn't. Instead, they added 150 billion. So let me show you this graphic on a pie chart on how much we spend in the budget. how much of it is the Pentagon? Here, let's take a look at that if we can, Marissa. So look at that chart. You see, it's a solid chunk on Veterans Affairs. You got Department of Homeland Security. And then Health and Human Services is much smaller. Education, even smaller. HUD, smaller. All of the other things that help the American people are those tiny, tiny, tiny slices. The big, giant Pac-Man that's eating up the budget is the Pentagon. And again, that's not even including the VA and the Department of Homeland Security, right? So look at how much we spend on defense, and for what? Offensive wars in Iraq, Iran, now, and so it just totally, utterly wasted. We talked about the 1.6 trillion spent on the F-35 earlier. Let me show you the next chart. So are we spending enough vis-a-vis the rest of the world? Because that context is really important, right? Because maybe we're getting outspent, and that's why we have to spend so much money on defense to catch up. Well, let's look at graphic 6 here, and you begin to see, oh, we're gonna spend at least 916 billion, but now estimates are that it might get up to $1 trillion in this budget. The next 9 countries combined, so the rest of the top 10 is at 882 billion, less than us. The rest of the top 10 combined spends less on defense. Almost the rest of the world spends less on defense than we do. And then the rest of the world after the top 10 is 645 billion, so they're not even close to us. So it is stunning how much money we spend on defense instead of helping the American people. I got 2 more for you guys. Let's look at select programs in the US budget. So we've got the Pentagon at $890 billion. K through 12 education. Let's put the next one up, graphic 7. You see the drop off? I mean, look at that drop off. It drops off a cliff. And guys, remember why? Because it's going to private corporations who are taking such a giant chunk of that home in profits. But the second one is K through 12 education all the way down at 80 billion, less than 10%. Less than 10% of what we spend on defense, we spend on our kids. And why? Because they're our kids and they're not a private corporation that profits off of that spending. And then you've got renewable energy at 38 billion if it survives, Head Start at only 12, humanitarian aid at 7 billion, homeless services at 3 billion. I mean, we're constantly talking about, hey, how come we're not doing anything about the homeless? Well, that's because we're spending what? 300 times more on defense when we don't even have a defense issue. Who the hell's attacking us right now? That's why they have to say absurd things like, oh, we're getting invaded by fentanyl from China. What is that? And that's why we have to spend 900 billion? No, we have to spend 900 billion because you're robbing us. One last one, graphic 8 here. Global military spending, to give you some perspective on this. So this is not just our military budget, but our allies as well. So when you include our allies, we spend $1.35 trillion. So, well, I mean, the threat must be so large that's why we're spending. No, of course not. China's only at 292 billion, Russia's at 86 billion. See that disparity? We make it seem like China and Russia are about to kill us all, right? They're tiny compared to us in defense spending. Iran, the great menace of Iran, is only 6.8 billion, nowhere near the 1.35 trillion, and North Korea is at 4 billion. So, Nina, Ben, as we look at these numbers, I just, the one thing that rings in my head, we've got concerns about are you using the military here at home and more nefarious purposes, et cetera. But what screams across in those numbers to me, Nina, is this is a robbery. Like this is an unbelievable robbery.
Yeah, I mean, how much more do we need? I mean, that becomes the question. That is a perfect question to ask, given everything that you've laid out. How much more America do we need to destroy the world? How much? Let's go and let's put a number on it. How much more do we need? And the American people, and that's what I love about. Hopefully, people will watch Ben's Up in Arms video that lays this out very well. We got to start to question this for ourselves. What does it truly mean to be safe in the world? And does all of these weapons make us safer? If we're based on what you just laid out, spending more than the next 9 or 10 countries combined, how much more do we need? We are the only country to have dropped an atomic bomb on another country. We got bases all over the world. How much more do we need? While we can't increase the minimum wage, the Pentagon can't pass a budget, what did they fail? 7 times. They failed an audit 7 times, right, Ben? 7 times, but they get rewarded for not being able to pass an audit. How much more do we need while veterans are overrepresented in the unhoused population? We shouldn't have any unhoused people, but since they sitting up there parading down the streets of DC, pretending like they care about veterans, how about let's make sure that there are no unhoused veterans? How much more do we need, America? That's my question.
Yep. All right, guys, let me pause here because we've got JD Vance is going to speak. Trump spoke a little while ago. We're going to play that for you in a minute as well. But let's listen to JD Vance's speech here.
Our soldiers do not rest until they win. Our citizens know that you're standing guard, killing terrorists, crushing our enemies, and keeping America safe. But you're also keeping it strong and proud and mighty and free. This week, we remember that we only have.
This is Trump's video leading up to JD Vance.
As President of the United States, let me express my undying gratitude for every soldier here today, for every veteran and their incredible families, and for every patriot who has worn the uniform. Our debt to you is infinite and everlasting. With the grace of God, America will always prevail.
Bigfooting JD Vance as usual. He's got to stand up there while Trump takes the spotlight, but go ahead.
Well, let me say to the thousands of Americans who traveled from distant towns and across state lines to be here today, this is your national capital. Welcome to Washington, D.C. We are thrilled to have you. This evening, as we celebrate the 250th anniversary of the United States Army, the oldest branch of the greatest fighting force ever known to man, I want to say to all the soldiers all across our nation's capital and all across the world, happy birthday, soldiers. We're proud of you.
You know, guys, I got to admit, I'm surprised by how much I hate this visual.
And I want to say you represent
civilian,
an unbroken line of greatness,
civilian
of
control
and one of the
in
things
this
the
military
President of the United
context.
States
It's really
has
haunting.
told his entire administration. For the vice president,
authoritarian country, he didn't know this was happening in our own country. I would think it was also
uniform and serve this nation are our most precious resource. We must honor them, we must respect them, we must fight for them, and that's exactly what the Trump administration aims to do every single day. And so to our soldiers, we're so proud of you, and let me tell you that the way that we honor and respect you is, number one, we never ask you to go to war unless you absolutely have to. And number two, when we do ask you to go to war, we give you the weapons and the support needed to kick the hell out of the enemy and come back home safely.
How does he say that as we just launched the most unnecessary war in Iran?
In between. And that is a dangerous place to be with a lot of soldiers in the audience. So let me just say a couple of quick additional thoughts. First of all, June the 14th is, of course, the birthday of the Army. It is, of course, the birthday of the President of the United States. And happy birthday, Mr. President.
Why don't you sing for him? I wonder if he's going to pull a Marilyn Monroe.
I would get in trouble if I didn't mention that it's also my wedding anniversary. And so to my lovely wife, I love you, honey. Happy anniversary. And thank you for everything that you do for our country. So without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce the 45th and 47th Commander-in-Chief of the United States Military, President Donald J. Trump.
Yeah, so as I was saying earlier, this is a rare time that we see Melania and Donald Trump together. I guess that was another part of his birthday present. He goes to play with the little tanks and the planes, and then his wife actually shows up. But look at this visual. I can't, like, you do this in our military bases. That's what military bases are for, right? You do it in the middle of Washington with a political leader that's supposed to be civilian, and I can't stand it. I think it looks terrible.
Vice President Vance, and thank you to our wonderful First Lady. And above all, thank you to the greatest, fiercest, and bravest fighting force ever to stride the face of this earth, the United States Army. Thank you very much. Because the Army keeps us free, you make us strong, and tonight you have made all Americans very proud. They're watching from all over the world, actually. Made them all very proud. Every other country celebrates their victories. It's about time America did too. That's what we're doing tonight. And watching this magnificent display, our souls are filled with gratitude for every generation of warriors who have worn the uniform all the way back to the very beginning. So to every veteran across our land, and right here in our nation's capital, including 6 recipients of the Congressional Medal of Honor, we love you, we honor you, and we salute your noble service to our flag and to our country. As we celebrate tonight, we also think of the hundreds of thousands of Army soldiers who have made the supreme sacrifice for our nation and selflessly laid down their lives in every war, from the Revolution to the War on Terror. To the Gold Star families with us today, the courage of your heroes is the bedrock on which our entire nation stands. We thank you. Yes, we thank you. Today we commemorate an event that did not just change American history, but changed the history of the entire world. With the creation of America's Army on June 14th, 1775, liberty got its shield and the freedom got its sword. Those first Army patriots in the American Revolution fought against a fearsome enemy and impossible odds, but they were armed with a righteous cause. They were led by an indomitable commander, a truly great man, General George Washington, and they were united by an eternal creed. Their motto was victory or death. Over the past 2.5 centuries, our warriors have shown unrivaled valor on fields of battle around the globe. With the frostbitten feet and bloody fist, they have marched into the flames and fury of combat, charged up mountains, stormed beaches, waded through torrents of gunfire, and leapt into skies thick with smoke and shrapnel. The U.S. Army has driven bayonets into the heart of sinister empires, crushed the ambitions of evil tyrants. Beneath the threads of American tanks, it's done so well, it's done so much, and sent the devil himself flying into full retreat. Time and again, America's enemies have learned that if you threaten the American people, our soldiers are coming for you. Your defeat will be certain, your demise will be final, and your downfall will be total and complete.
That is a very violent speech. We're talking about bloody fists, bayonets in the hearts.
They fight, and they win. And that's
Did we
why
win in Iraq?
no institution in history has entered more names into
Yet
the
Americans
roster of American
killed.
heroes
Not to
than the
mention
U.S.
the other
Army, the
people
Congressional
still
Medal
being
of
killed.
Honor, more than anyone or anything. There was Mad Anthony Wayne asked by George Washington to lead a daring midnight raid up the cliffs of Stony Point with unloaded muskets and only their bayonets to fight the redcoats. Mad Anthony replied, "Issue the order, sir, and I will storm into hell for you." Then there was the Civil War general, John Corse, shot in the face in combat. He fired off a message to his commander: "I am short a cheekbone and one ear, but I am able to whip the hell out of all of them." He stayed on the front lines, it seemed forever. In World War II, there was the great Creighton Abrams, besieged on all sides by the Nazis at the Battle of the Bulge. He boldly proclaimed, "They've got us surrounded again, the poor bastards." This is the fighting spirit and unyielding force of the U.S. Army. It has never changed, and it will never, ever change, because there is no earthly force more powerful than the brave heart of a U.S. infantryman or an Army Ranger, paratrooper, or Green Beret. They are the best, they are the finest. From Bunker Hill to San Juan Hill, from Gettysburg to Guadalcanal, from Yorktown to Shiloh, and from the trenches of the Argonne to the mountains of Afghanistan, the Army has forged a legacy of unmatched courage, untold sacrifice, and unequaled and undying glory. Our soldiers have poured out their blood by the bucketful on Missionary Ridge and Heartbreak Ridge, on the sands of Sicily, Normandy, and the Philippines, and on the dusty streets of Da Nang, Baghdad, and Fallujah. Thanks to their extraordinary service and devotion, 250 years later, America stands tall, America stands proud, and America stands free. We're the hottest country in the world right now, and our country will soon be greater and stronger than ever before. Down through history, we've been blessed beyond words by this valiant legion of Army warriors and patriots, heroes and legends. And tonight we affirm with unwavering certainty that in the years ahead and in every generation hence, whenever duty calls and whatever danger comes, the American soldier will be there.
Yeah, that's because you keep sending them into unnecessary wars.
Our warriors will charge into battle. They will plunge into the crucible of fire, and they will seize the crown of victory, because the United States of America will always have the grace of Almighty God and the iron will of the United States Army. Congratulations to everybody. We love our country. We've never done better. Thank you. God bless you. God bless the Army, and God bless America. And now I'd like to ask our great First Lady to join me at the podium. Thank you very much, everybody.
All right. Oh, thank God it's over. Okay. So, man, that was a violent speech. He said, crucible of fire, bloody fists, bayonets in the hearts. Talked about iron will, it reminded me of Iron Cross a little bit. He said, God is on our side, which again, if you don't know the reference, and it's a normal thing to say in other contexts, but, and I don't think that he necessarily meant it this way, but I know that the Germans on their belt buckles had the saying, Gott mit uns. And what that means is God is with us. So every time there is a new bully in the world, he always claims don't worry, God is with me, and I have bayonets ready to thrust into hearts and fists ready to get bloodied. And so now it's in the streets of Washington, D.C., and some of those folks are now being used in the streets of Los Angeles against our own citizens. Now, on a lighter note, guys, he mentioned the Gold Star families in the beginning of the speech, and of course, he attacked Gold Star families when he was running the first time around, and I wanted everybody to remember that as he pretends to care about them. And then he mentioned feet a couple of times for some reason, and then I thought that's funny because if you remember, he did not go to Vietnam because he claimed he had problems with his ankles, his heels, and he said when they asked him, this is my favorite part, when they asked him which heel did you have a problem with, he couldn't remember, so he said both. And we found out later, of course, that he didn't have any problem with his heels. It was a doctor's note that his dad got for him, and I think if I remember right, he reduced the rent for the doctor's office in order to get that letter written so that someone else could go die in Donald Trump's place. And that's always what happens with these cowards, right? Oh yeah, I'm big and tough and I'm gonna go start wars you don't need in Iraq, Iran, and Vietnam and all these places. Are you gonna go, oh no, oh my heel, oh the left one or the right one, or whichever one the doctor pretended I had a problem with. So look, we've got other guests coming up and there's other facts that we wanna share with you guys. But Nina, before we go, I know you're working on the freedom budget. And from the civil rights era, and as we see this enormous waste of money in Washington, in LA, and with the overall budget, tell us about the freedom budget and what we could be spending it on instead.
Yeah, thank you for that, Cenk. And again, to the people who serve, God bless them. This just makes my heart ache because this is not how you show love. This is a false equivalency that this president is given. He's talking about George Washington. He's talking about every war. Meanwhile, when African Americans fought in those wars, they could not be treated like equals. George Washington was a slaveholder. I have two grandfathers on my maternal and paternal side who fought in World War II, and I have uncles who went to Vietnam. And most of the people who have to go to war are working class people, are being sent to go to war. So the things, Cenk, that this money could be being spent on is universal health care, increasing the minimum wage, no more wars, making sure that people have a guaranteed income, education, farm parity. Those are the kinds of things when we think about domestic tranquility, being strong is more than having a strong army or other branches of the military. Being strong means that we have a United States of America that's worth the military protecting. So we need to ask ourselves this question: what type of America is military protecting? One that leaves almost 500,000 people homeless or unhoused on the street. One that has not raised the minimum wage, that is still $7.25. And don't get me started on the sub-minimum wage. Are we protecting an America that forces people to put their insulin on credit cards, or 68,000 people who die every year, or the millions who are uninsured or uninsured? What kind of America do we want our military to protect, Cenk? That this relative status and people up there cheering, all of that stuff. Most of those people are working class people. They don't even know what they're clapping for. They just up there clapping. All of this is smoke and mirrors. And if this president really loved this country, he would be using all that chutzpah that he has, all that bravado that he has, to ensure that material conditions change for everybody, but especially the enlisted people of this country. I'm just outdone with it, Cenk. Really.
Yeah.
The freedom budget for all
At
Americans.
the same time, he's looking to cut veterans' benefits, right?
Yes.
Cut
Yes.
the health care that they need because they got wounded in these wars.
That's right.
Yeah. And then every once in a while, you need to have people like Jon Stewart push from the outside just to get help to first responders. And they never, I looked it up a couple of years back, and because all this idea talk of support the troops, I said, great, let's see let's look into the budget and see how much are they paying the service members. Incoming service members, a couple years back, it's now a little bit higher.
Yes.
There's yearly salaries, $19,000 a year. $19,000 a year. Where's this? And now it's a little bit above 20,000. Where's the support of the troops? No support for his salaries, no support after the war, only support for giant defense contractors. Yeah, and so look, last quick thing here is we got to keep going. Nina, to your point, there's a guy that's still around that was connected to the civil rights movement. His name is Jesse Jackson. And when I was a young kid in college, I was a Republican, and I went to see Reverend Jackson's speech on my campus, and he begun to move me towards the left. And the story he told was about his dad, who was in World War II, and he said that they were in this pitched battle against the Nazis, and they won, and they captured a whole bunch of Nazis, and then they got on a train back to their base with their prisoners of war, right? And the black,
what you about to say?
The black US soldiers had to sit behind the Nazis. And so things are not what they appear oftentimes. And so that is a heartbreaking story of America. And it doesn't mean that we can't get better and that we haven't gotten better, but it feels oftentimes, Nina, as we take one step forward, we wind up taking 2 steps back. And here we are, 2 days into a new war in the Middle East, and Marines in the streets of LA.
That's right. That's right, Cenk. And I know you got to go to break, and I'm leaving. But Asa Philip Randolph was one of the authors of the Freedom Budget, and I just want to read one quote from him: "Patriotism has no appeal to us. Justice has. Party has no weight with us. Principle has. Loyalty is meaningless. It depends on what one is loyal to." So we really need to redefine as Americans what we are loyal to in the spirit of Asa Philip Randolph, one of the architects of the Freedom Budget and one of the greatest unionists and civil rights leaders of the 20th century. What are we loyal to?
Yeah, and what would be amazing if we were loyal to one another instead of these corporations that have taken over, including the defense industry.